eat, and when it comes from clean and unpolluted waters, they can eat it without damage to their health. Nevertheless, one should be careful. One of the largest breeders in Penang is Teok Ben Chai. His farm, which lies south of Georgetown, is also kept in an annex to the house, whereby the breeding pairs are kept in the house. Mr. Teok breeds selected pairs. He calls his special fish Brilliant Blue, but he also breeds other color variations. The breeding tanks have no fittings whatsoever. There is also no spawning substratum such as clay vases, rocks or plastic pipes. Therefore, the animals spawn directly onto the glass. The water used for breeding comes directly out of the tap and is not processed. Apparently, the water is soft to middle hard. The breeders generally do not know the exact data. Only the pH value is measured frequently and lies between 6.5 and 7.0. It is not exactly the ideal water for discus breeding. As a result, the hatching rate is not especially high. Because often up to 80% of the eggs become infested with fungus, and to protect the few developing embryos from being eaten before they hatch, the clutch is covered with a coarsely meshed wire, so that the parent fish can see their eggs and care for them by using the water movement, but it is impossible for them to eat them. The wire may first be removed when the embryos have hatched from their egg sacs and hang on to the substratum as larvae, while apparently the wriggling of the larvae inhibits their parents from eating them, and therefore they continue taking care of the brood. The breeding pairs are mainly fed with red mosquito larvae bloodworms. After about 10 days, the young fish receive artemia as the first supplementary food. What are the larger adolescent discus fed?
I give big discus only 2 beefs, beef heart and bloodworms.
A large amount of live food is always on hand to feed the numerous hungry mouths. Approximately 100 breeding pairs produce, according to the hatching rate, a large number of young fish that must be solicitously cared for. A varied diet as well as good water quality guarantee a healthy development. How often is the water changed in the aquariums, which are partly occupied with many fish?
I change the water 2 times daily.
Because all bits of leftover food and wastes are removed with every change of the water, and because of the large amounts of fresh water used, there is hardly any chance for disease. Because of this high-quality care, the discus fish develop in a healthy manner. The temperature of the water is generally between 28 and 30 degrees Celsius. Usually the water comes out of the tap with a temperature of 28 degrees or higher. 3 large water tanks next to the facility increase the amount of water pressure if needed, or serve respectively as a reserve or provide warmer water due to the higher daytime temperatures. This farm has approximately 150 aquariums and approximately 10,000 fry are produced here every year. When asked about his hopes for the future, Mr. Teok replied that he would like to breed golden discus fish one day. How and when this might come about is still in the stars, but without hopes and dreams, the future is bleak. The fact of the matter is that this farm already produces very fine discus fish. How much the aquarium with the unusual fish will play a part in the future remained unknown. Are they only remnants, or are they already the testing assortment for new experiments? Aside from the small and larger breeder, there are also specialists. Ronnie Chu is one of them with his farm. In his nearly 60 aquariums, he has limited himself to breeding only a few special discus color variations. In approximately 3 to 4 years of work, and with an intensive and careful selection, he has succeeded in crossbreeding a new and very appealing color form, which he calls the golden rainbow. It is a new, very beautiful and appealing colour form that has distant parallels to other new colour variations. But in comparison, the golden rainbow lacks the black colourings on the body and fins. Ronnie Chew attends to the golden rainbow and a variation of the so-called ghost discus, the gold head ghost, which is an attractive enhancement of the ghost discus originating in Penang. In this case as well, normal tap water is used for general care and breeding. The tap water, which is often cloudy, is middle hard and has a pH level of between 6.5 and 6.8. For regular care as well as breeding, the water temperature is kept at around 30 degrees Celsius, which is achieved by heaters on cooler days when the temperature drops to 25 to 28 degrees. This happens above all during the rainy season because the water cools down and comes with a temperature of 25 to 26 degrees Celsius out of the tap. Only around 4,000 discus fish are bred each year in this comparatively small facility, mainly because of the specialization. The reproduction of the golden rainbow is especially interesting. Still, Ronnie Chew is at the very beginning with this breeding line. How many golden rainbow breeding pairs does he have at the moment? At the moment, I have 8 pairs. As the first breeder of this new colour variation, Ronnie Chew devotes special attention to these fish. Their bill of fare includes beef heart, beef and muscle meat. Young fish are fed shrimp eggs and a mixture of beef heart, muscle meat and artemia. On the 5th or 6th day, fry receive freshly hatched nauplia from Artemia salina, and at this point they are separated from the parents, possibly somewhat early. That the young fish and the parent animals must be attended to very carefully is obvious. A question for Ronnie Chew. What are the breeding animals fed? My breeding animals receive the same food as all the other fish. Despite all of the care taken, the new line of golden rainbow is full of surprises. Ronnie Chew also hopes for the future that the 6 breeding aquariums will always be filled with many healthy and beautiful offspring. The golden rainbow, a colour variety created by Ronnie Chew, and possibly the gold head ghost as well, will soon enthuse the world of discus lovers. They will most probably conquer the hearts of the aquarists in a triumphal march. Bangkok, in the Thai language Krang Thep, the City of Angels, the capital of Thailand, is one of the constantly growing metropolis in Southeast Asia. Bangkok, it is seething traffic that stifles everything, a metropolis breaking at the seams, boundless industry, and despite it all, smiling and friendly people. Bangkok, it is also splendidly restored exotic temple grounds. Above all, the large complex of the Grand Palace with its sacral district, whose entry gates are guarded by the yaks, the giant guard figures. Gilded Naga snakes and Garunda figures adorn the different temples. Gates decorated with mother of pearl, as well as carefully gilded gables, embellish the reverentially cared for places of prayer and monastery buildings. A golden pagoda is a splendid landmark on these grounds. The temple grounds of the Wat Phra Keo is one of the largest tourist attractions of the country and links the history of old Siam with present-day Thailand. Bangkok. It is, aside from all of the industry, also the love for animals. This is not only evident in the unusually large number of animals presented at the Sunday and weekend markets. Aside from dogs, cats and other animals, very many aquarium and pond fish are offered for sale here. An unusually wide-ranging assortment for a partially mobile market that is only open 3 days a week. Bangkok made a name for itself in the field of aquaristics quite early with the export of aquarium fish. Import and export companies have supported these efforts for many years. Well-known and long-established companies like Star Aquarium keep extensive holding facilities for this purpose. In 500 aquariums and numerous large cement tanks, the fish are kept here in interim so that they are prepared to be transported throughout the world. Just how large the number of aquarium fish breeders and merchants is in Bangkok and the region is shown by the wide range of offered goods at the fish market that takes place once a week and shouldn't be confused with the Sunday or weekend markets. Here, aquarium fish are pre-packed in small and large plastic bags according to their species and size and sold for retail sale. Merchants buy their products here. At this market, one very seldom finds the exporter as a buyer. The opinion is often wrongly held that the fish offered here do not meet the criteria for export and therefore are second-rate, that the best animals are exported anyway. But that is an assertion that cannot be confirmed after a visit to this market. For the most part, there are many different species on sale. Aside from the typical Thai fish, the pla cat, known as the Siamese fighting fish Betta splendens, there are also discus fish in various sizes. Mostly adolescent fish can be found here, but there are also large sexually mature breeding fish. The colour blue is predominant here too. Aside from these and many other species, one can also find for special occasions these so-called dyed fish that are brilliantly coloured for a few weeks because of a special treatment. Water tanks for a change of water and oxygen bottles for the transport of the fish are on hand as a customer service. Many of the fish bought here can later be found in the numerous aquarium and pet shops. There you can choose between a wide range of fish species and equipment. For the caring of and breeding of the more sensitive species, the water in Bangkok is generally quite rich in minerals and also very alkaline. But it is different outside of the bend of the Menam River on the westerly side of the city in the Thonburi district. There, a soft and slightly acidic water comes out of the water taps, and because of this, the corresponding fish, among them the discus, can be taken care of. Mr. Somsak is one of the many breeders of these fish that have made a name for themselves in Bangkok because of the high quality of their breeds. His main breeding facility is placed in a house, whereby the breeding aquariums are kept on the first floor. Compared with Hong Kong, Bangkok is a tropical region. But nevertheless, the night temperatures in the cooler seasons of the year can sometimes sink to 15 degrees Celsius. Therefore, heating, or at least warming the breeding rooms is absolutely necessary, and that requires a more or less enclosed building. The best time for breeding is between the months of August and March. The rest of the year, it is usually too warm and does not allow productive breeding. Mr. Somsak's entire facility is spread over 3 locations and has a total of approximately 500 aquariums. 200 of them are used as breeding tanks. According to the season, they hold 50 to 100 breeding pairs. The parent animals should be at least 14 months old for breeding. To increase the harmony of the pairs, 5 males and 5 females are placed together, and the pairs that find each other stay together. Here again, tap water is used for general care and for breeding. The water is relatively soft and has a conductivity of approximately 300 microsiemens. The pH value lies around 7.0. It is not exactly the ideal water for breeding, but a water that, despite a slight cloudiness, can still be used without processing. Although a large part of the clutch becomes infected with fungus, it frequently comes to larger swarms of young fish, depending on the color variety. A protective wire over the spawn is also used here until the embryos successfully hatch, or rather the larvae start swimming. Conical clay vases, over which a likewise conically formed wire is placed, are used as a spawning substratum. With a distance of 1 to 2 centimeters from the clutch, it allows the parents to care for but not eat the eggs or the larvae. Aside from the royal and the turquoise discus, other colour varieties are also bred, and experiments are made to develop new colour variations. All of the discus at this farm make the impression of being very well developed and healthy. A question for Mr. Somsak about the feeding of his discus. What are your breeding fish fed? We feed them shrimp eggs, live black mosquito larvae and tubifex. But most of the other discus also receive this varied diet. The fish grow well with this food. The breeding animals occasionally receive cocoons from the larvae of black mosquitoes for a better condition. From the fourth day on, fry receive several times a day small live moina, a type of tropical water flea in addition, but they do not receive nauplia from Artemius. With this frequent and intensive feeding, the question of water quality has to be raised. Filters are not in use. It remains to be asked, how often is the water in each aquarium changed each day? We change the half of the water twice a day. The water in the tanks has a temperature of 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. Large blowers provide a sufficient supply of air or oxygen for the aquarium water. The air is distributed through thick plastic pipes and then passed through thin tubes into the water of the aquariums. The rearing tanks are placed on the lower floors. This is where the young fish are reared. All in all, it is a well cared for facility that produces around 15,000 fish each year. Because of their form and their colour, one can say that these are discus fish of very high quality. Also in the future, the quality of the discus fish is the highest priority for Mr. Somsak. When it comes to the colour of the fish, he also gladly takes the wishes of the customer into consideration. The most spectacular colour variation of recent years was introduced in 1991. It came onto the market with the name pigeon blood, named after a special gem, a beautiful red ruby. In Malaysia, it is often called red ruby discus as well. On the other hand, in the United States, it is called red dragon. The colour of this discus fish is so unusual that, considering the previously known breeding colours, one can speak of a revolution in colour breeding. Aside from that, they seem to be far more robust than other animals, and because of their unusual appearance, they have already made their way into aquariums around the world. Mr. Kitty Panaiti is thought to be the first to breed this unusual fish. For more than 18 years, he and his wife have been breeding discus fish. According to them, the pigeon blood is a product of crossing the Thai royal and the turquoise discus. Contrary to all of the pessimistic talk and the contentions of malicious tongues, the pigeon blood is not a dyed fish. The characteristics of pigeon blood have already proven themselves to be hereditary. Nevertheless, new colour nuances are constantly appearing. Mr. Kitty also has his discus farm on the west side of Bangkok, outside of the Menam Bend. In cooperation with many small breeders, he operates the main facility with around 300 aquariums. They breed approximately 10,000 discus fish each year. One asks himself what sort of water is used for the breeding of pigeon blood. Special water or normal tap water? Mrs. Panaiti gives the answer. We use normal tap water. This tap water is comparatively soft and has a neutral pH level of 7. To guarantee a good development of the discus and a high quality of water is important for just that, almost all of the water in the aquariums is changed twice daily. In the summer months at least, the water is warmed by the air temperature, or rather controlled with fans or with air conditioning when available in the hot summer months. As the main source of nutrition, live black mosquito larvae and tubifex are on the menu, and for smaller fish, shrimp eggs as well. Care is always taken that the animals used for breeding are beautiful and healthy discus fish, and are at least 12 months old. Generally, 100 young fish per pair and active spawning is considered a good result. They are allowed to reproduce for nearly 3 years. According to hitherto existing observations, they have the same life expectancy as other colour varieties or fish from the wild. Pigeon blood is not only because of its colour and form the ideal fish for the budding discus lover, but also because of its previously observed resistance to various diseases. Pigeon blood has already made its way into the aquariums of the world, and as can be heard everywhere, with a great success. Bangkok, the centre for discus fish. Many well-established and new colour varieties are breeded here and are exported from this city into the rest of the world. The sales are taken care for by exporters, such as the Siam Pet Fish Trading in the Sukhumvit Road in Soi 62. Here, the breeders deliver the ordered discus fish, and then they are packed separately in small special transport bags. The size of the bags and the amount of water within depends on the time needed for transport and delivery. At the same time, the used water in the big plastic bags is exchanged with the clean water that the breeding farms also deliver. The small transport bags that are halfway filled with water are then filled with oxygen and closed. The fish are packed singly in a plastic bag corresponding to their size. With movement, the oxygen that has been added is whipped into the water, which ensures that the water is constantly enriched with oxygen. It is a mode of transportation that is acceptable for several hours. Nearly 200,000 discus fish leave Bangkok each year. Approximately 40% are exported to Taiwan and 30% to Japan. 20% are sold to the USA and only 10% to Europe. The number of exports from the other discus centres are unknown, but are probably comparable to those of Bangkok. Hong Kong, Penang and Bangkok. There are very many different kinds of discus fish from breeding facilities that clearly vary from one to another, raised under various conditions of care and fed under varying feeding practices. But they all have one thing in common. They are all of a remarkably high quality and beauty. Discus farms in Asia, more and more a guarantee for beautiful and healthy discus fish.